Seems to be working. Awesome. All right. Should be going live here in a second. Thanks for tuning into the game plan. Excited for another chance today. Yesterday, a pretty wild one with, the most random guys were popping off for huge fantasy scores. And then there was some real super late news that seemed to play out in a big way as far as ownership and the good plays and whatnot. Of course, I'm talking about the Brooklyn situation, but tonight I expect to be like a whole different animal. There really aren't a ton of injuries to speak of. So, it should be interesting. I think like the Clippers are the big one. Kawhi and Paul George are both questionable tonight. So, sorry, I'm getting I had the volume on this. It's really distracting me. Okay. So Kawhi and Paul George are questionable. I see that as a big opportunity because if they're both out, the most expensive guy on the team is like 5K. And that means we're going to really want some of these guys. Lou Will in particular at 4K would be the highest usage guy. And he can really do some damage. On the flip side, though, Paul George and Kawhi both play. Then we're in a spot where we'd have to find something to do with the the rest of our lineup spots. So I was just kind of thanks, David. Hannah, appreciate you. I didn't expect any super chats on this show. Thanks, man. All right, Triple Words is saying, is it possible to have ownership projections post lock? It's interesting, but I feel like, man, like it's interesting. I feel like it would be a little bit weird because certain guys are locked in and we'd be changing their ownership projection where it's really fixed. But maybe I'll just keep running it. I'll see what the guys think. All right, Poker God says won a few tickets to the 444. Appreciate any advice. Yeah, let's talk about some FanDuel. So I got FanDuel lineup builder up here. John's saying what's the cheapest option for Fantasy Crunch for NBA? 2021 package. Okay. So let me pull up the big board. Let's see how this is looking tonight. So Capella, top value, top owned. Wow. That center, that's extremely unusual on FanDuel because there's half as much ownership total. I would say maybe Wendell Carter could be a really good pivot then. Not as instrumental in the Chicago Bulls rotation, but he's been upping his game in assists this year. And the minutes have been all over the place. But yeah, not the most confident about that. What would be really nice is if there was an expensive center on this late game that I could swap to if some of the other guys are ruled out. But unfortunately, that's not the case. It looks like some of the clips are standing as good values. I could pencil in Lou Will. If Kawhi's in and Paul George is in, I may want to swap off. So then I could potentially go to Kobe White. Or I could put in Steph Curry. And then if he's out, or sorry, if the Clippers are out, then I could swap to Lou Will and spend up at a different position. Shooting guard would be a good candidate with Levine. I think I'm just confusing myself at this point. But Steph Curry looks really overpriced. He looks like maybe an option if you want to shove in the Clippers value. If these guys are out, then it might upgrade you to Steph. Simply because there'd be a lot of salary left over. So I do want enough salary flexibility to be able to upgrade Lou Will if Kawhi's in. So I need some sort of punt play that I can feel a little confident in. Draymond Green is kind of interesting at 5K. I don't hate that. He was on pace for 26 minutes last game. Otto Porter, certainly a good price. If I need to free up salary, I mean, here at Temple is the same position. But what I'm looking at here, what Clippers are small forward, it looks like none of them. The DVS says, is Lou Williams really better of a player than Pat Bev, given how many minutes they've been playing lately? I think that they would really need him if Paul George and Kawhi are out more than Patrick Beverly, just because he's a much better scorer. I also see the potential that if he's having a big game, he's just going to get more minutes. He did close the last game, which was encouraging. That was last night. Got some additional run in the second half over Serge Ibaka. Who goes for the Spurs? It looks like Gay was center. So that makes sense. They pulled Ibaka when Pirtle got pulled, replaced him with Louisville. Trying to work on this deficit. How many minutes did he play here? 4.5, 8.5, 12.5. I have him at 23 right now. So that second half rotation would be on pace for 25. So he needs a little bit of good play to get there. I know he hasn't been getting the minutes as much recently. All right. Let me pull the big board again. Alf Payton. John says good call on D'Lo. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Wow. Giannis. Not picking up a ton of ownership compared to his chance of being the optimal. All right, I need to pick maybe another player in this last set. Zach LaVine was on pace for like 40. Matthew's saying when crunching using the boom bust and sorting by leverage give you different results in crunching by projection and sorting by ownership. That's an interesting question. I don't really know. Oh, Saz says Lou got injured last night a little bit. So that's some good insight that maybe he didn't play quite as much. All right, so I got my 4 guys from the late slate. I only got 30 minutes here, so I gotta speed this up. Let's pick a power forward. I do need maybe 1 value guy and 1 leverage guy. So Giannis, 11th most popular player. I am going to have the salary for him. Sabonis is way more popular, but great play. But I have them as about equal as far as how good of plays they are per dollar. Ibaka Another the guy that could benefit from this Clipper situation. Let me put in Giannis. Playing against the Pistons, I think people are worried about the blowout. So I think that's a factor, but I'm willing to do that for GBP purposes. JaVale McGee is a power forward on FanDuel. What the heck? Okay. I know they fudged the positions a little bit to improve the number of choices. All right. Tristan Thompson, power forward too. Interesting. PJ Washington's a guy that I'm kind of tempted to take another chance on. I mean, a lot of times I find that when there's opportunity but not the production, it is still worth buying in on. Atlanta is a very good matchup. All right, now I need a point guard, shooting guard, small forward. Got a pretty flexible salary. Elf Payton's kind of popping. Let's see. Let me just review the Knicks rotation last night or 2 nights ago. He didn't close this game, quickly closed over him, as well as Austin Rivers. But it's gonna happen. Doesn't mean if he's not playing well that he won't close. So that's a GPP flyer, slow ownership. Now I need a low-owned guy for shooting guard or small forward. Bullock, he's questionable, so I don't really want to build around him at this point in the day. SGA, pretty popular tonight. That's interesting. Josh Hart. Let me look at the... I haven't finished kind of reviewing all the game flows today, so I'm a little behind on that. Josh Hart played 28 minutes, but however that was overtime. Beth Harmon says, what percentage of your lineups are setting up to pivot to Kennard and Lou Will? What percentage are you not worrying about whether those guys are playing? I'll probably just pick one or the other. Yeah, as Legal Formation says, late swap optimizer. But I just am seeing it that the later guys have more value because you'll be able to take advantage of this situation. All right. So, low-owned shooting guards. Kevin Herter, I guess. That not inspiring a lot of confidence. 50 value means just about average play. D Rose, I guess, like that's kind of interesting. With no Hayes, Dion, a good lower on play with Hayes out. So it says I'm thinking that he'll play about 22 minutes and just Derrick Rose will continue to get his 26. If I had to guess, so I wouldn't be super keen on Dion right tonight. All right. D Rose, I don't feel like Hayes to Dion Wright is going to change his role, but leverage is interesting. Andrew Wiggins, I like the fact that he's in this Golden State game, and he's 2.9% owned. That's enough, even though he's not really great play today. All right, and then 9K left. It looks like Brandon Ingram is the top option. He's really the only one that fits this particular lineup. So, ended up getting a good contrarian ranking and a decent value ranking. The one thing I'll mention is that supposing Kawhi and Paul George are out, would I be able to improve this lineup? I could swap out Wiggins and get Luke Kennard. or I could get Levine in here. No, I can't get. Oh yeah, I have Levine. So I feel like maybe I spent too much salary um in these later games that I'll just be stuck with extra salary if my dream situation happens here. So like what I would want instead of Blue Will, I need to pencil in an expensive point guard. I guess it doesn't really matter. What I was thinking is I could take Levine out, pick a cheaper small shooting guard in this game. Anyway, if either PG or Kawhi play and the other one's out, that means the other is a lock, right? Says John. So yeah, that's a good point that I wasn't mentioning is that I want to be able to swap onto Kawhi or Paul George if these injuries break a certain way. So Andrew Wiggins has some additional value because I can turn him into Paul George. Kawhi, I can't remember if he's small forward, but I do have a spot open for that. So maybe the original lineup was solid enough. All right, so let me talk about Cruncher. How am I going to set this up? Some questions about that. Kawhi in now. Not on injury report. I guess maybe that means he's in. That would suck because obviously these lineups I'm making are kind of based on this concept, so maybe some wasted time. But we'll see what happens in between now and lock. So the way you'd set up this group is you'd say at least 4 players from so we got Golden State, Chicago, LA, three is sometimes good enough to late swap, but 4, oops, I accidentally hit the key. Oops. Okay, I'm not sure what I did there. It looks like it added all the players automatically, so that's pretty cool. All right. So this is how you could set up a group. You could say 3 or 4. It appears the Kawhi might play, so maybe if Paul George is out, then we could still take advantage of some late swap. So what I'm going to do is I'll also set some rules to help me get the right amount of ownership in this lineup. Kawhi never plays back-to-back. Why would he start versus Golden State, says Poker God? I honestly don't really know. Saz says they probably had no shoot around this morning. Marcus Morris is upgraded. I don't think that's really a huge factor unless we were interested in Batum. Man, this is tough. On DraftKings, it's a lot easier because there is the multi-position eligibility. So like this lineup here with Lou Will, Beverly, Kennard, Levine, that could become like that could go a lot of different directions at lock. So like that. All right. Another thing you could do is just hit hit a thumbs up on all the late slate guys to make sure you get more of those. I think they are a little bit more valuable tonight, pending more information. Andrew says he's concerned about Otto's minutes on the back-to-back. I think that he's been kind of limited already at 28 minutes. They're definitely not running him a ton of minutes, so Seth says Clippers get fined if he point blank rusts. That is true. Easy says newbie here, what would he shoot for total ownership in a GPP? How does that number vary from night to night? What I found that works the best for me is I'll look at a high owned lineup like this at 190. Most of these lineups are in between. Oh, this one is. For some reason, the ownership's not showing up on this lineup. That's real weird. All right, so most of them are like 170 or higher. So maybe I can go into my data, set a maximum ownership of 165. I could just turn randomness off and turn on uniques. And now I'm gonna get some I got some interesting combos here. So I'm getting like 4 Clippers in a lot of these lineups. That might be tricky. Like, I wonder if Chicago will be overowned because people are swapping out these Clippers if Paul George and Kawhi play. So I'm a little bit confused by this situation. But these lineups all seem to do a good job getting some low-end guys in. Let me try putting one in the lineup builder. Bars says, can you talk about sorting and choosing lineups from your crunches? I use Excel and sort based on ownership, ceiling, and projection. I think that's solid. I mean, the nice thing about Excel is you can kind of create your own score for each lineup based on ownership and projection, and then just sort by that score. It's a little bit trickier in Fantasy Cruncher to do something like that. Also, thoughts on Nance. Getting a ton of minutes, but the rebounding is way down now that he's starting at power forward. So he's a decent play, but nothing I'm overly excited about. All right, so this is taking a while to just find these lineups. It's because I added some additional constraints with the groups. But let me try putting in one of these lineups into the lineup builder. So let's see if I'm hitting that right balance. So I guess this one, Christian Wood's questionable, so obviously I would change this if news breaks there. So I'm getting this as a very high contrarian or low contrarian ranking, high value ranking. Let me try reducing I'll add a tiny bit of randomness to make this run faster. What if I say 155? Not possible. Oh, that's because I didn't do the right category. All right. I found this strategy to be really useful if I'm making lineups in a very quick pinch. So, like maybe off slates and stuff like that. It looks like I got a good mix of really low owned guys and good value plays in this lineup, so I like that. And window. Okay. Oops. Contrarian ranking under 10%, value ranking over 90%. Man, this is tough. Alright, let me try to pick out a lineup that. Let me sort by lowest owned. Oh, Mellow. 18% owned, really? That's insane. Well, Garrett, Temple. He's a guy that I don't love, but you can easily turn him into other players later. Hopefully this lineup has a better contrarian ranking, because otherwise, man, what the heck? 10%. That's confounding. It maybe is penalizing me for using Giannis because he's high owned and really high salary. Let me see if I can find a lower owned lineup. Oh, it's only 124 though. It's possible there's some sort of bug here that could be fixed with the next ownership update. But let me just, okay, so, oops. I went from 279 to 278 here, so I gave up 1 point to get this lower ownership. So let's see. Ingram, that's interesting. So I'm going to look at this line for the, maybe there's something that's not working about the contrarian ranking. It should update in the next ownership run. So just, maybe it's just because the late guys are so high owned, but I don't think that's it. So I'm a little perplexed. But, one thing we can look at is, has the line moved at all for Clippers? It was at 2 before. Now it's at 2.5. So I guess this news about the injury report maybe not that helpful. All right, check questions. Is the Chicago and Sacramento game the best one to stack? Well, I think anyone like a $1,500 Vinny Johnson tonight? What? All right. Boucher against the Suns. I don't really love that they're playing 3 centers in Toronto. All right, Chicago and Sacramento, the game to stack. I think it's fine, but the problem is like a lot of ownership's going to that game. So any benefit that you get from like potential correlation with overtime is almost bound to be negated by the fact that other people are just going to naturally have those lineups. But I don't mind it. I just wouldn't force it in. What do you play, Holmes over Carter? Contrarian ranking seems way off to me. I always get under 10%. Maybe it's just off right now. I might have to run another ownership update because it has worked for me on the previous days. All right, guys, we got deeper dive in 15 minutes. Thanks for tuning in. But it's kind of clear that this Clippers situation is going to be kind of the one of the night to keep an eye on. Hopefully, create some DFS strategy around it. Yeah, good luck and catch you tomorrow on the game plan.